what about the larger topic of consolidation in this business? There are two big players. There's Sprint, and then there are some smaller ones. A lot of talk about the inevitability of consolidation. Is that right?
Well, I don't know if it's inevitability, but I think it would be good for the industry. And I've been saying the same thing for a long period of time, and began to become more vocal, and at least it was carried more when AT&T was trying to acquire T-Mobile. Our argument was that there should be consolidation in the industry. We're not against mergers and acquisitions in the industry, but we just don't think AT&T and Verizon should be allowed to get much larger. So I've been basically saying the exact same thing now for 2 years, which is I do believe that consolidation in the industry over the long term is good for the industry, because the way the industry is structured today is you have two really big players, then you drop down significantly and you have number 3 and number 4, which is Sprint and T-Mobile USA, then you drop down significantly and then you have number 5, 6, 7. And I think a duopoly would be not in the customer's best interest, not in the country's best interest. So if you take a very long-term perspective, I think that you'll see some of these players begin to consolidate, because the scale of AT&T and Verizon is so much different than the rest of the players that I just think it's untenable long term.
And so the formation of a viable number 3 eventually would be a good thing.
I think for the industry over time. I mean, it's not a fait accompli. Obviously, M&A is complex. You have 2 sets of shareholders and boards, and you have regulatory approvals and all of those kinds of things. But basically, I've been an advocate for a long time that for the wireless industry to be healthier, over time, you need an offset to the size of the big 2.
Right. Now, you've also made an observation about the different ecosystems that are forming within the industry more broadly defined. Can you explain what that is?
Well, there are, the way we look at it in our industry, there are 3 key ecosystems. The one is the carriers, and that's the one I was just talking about, where you have kind of an emerging duopoly, Verizon, AT&T. Then you have software, what we call OSs, operating systems. And there you have, if you will, Apple's iOS and Google's Android beginning to be almost a duopoly, where they're growing at such a rate that in terms of smartphone sales in the U.S., 91% had one of those 2 operating systems. And the third is in hardware. And in hardware, Apple and Samsung are becoming very, very strong. So we think in any of those 3 ecosystems, hardware, software, or the carriers, that 3 would be a healthier competitive environment than 2. But all 3 of them have a tendency to be moving toward duopoly.